What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content daily. We also stream over on Twitch at This Is Aftersound, so come by and say hello. All right, we have a pretty big announcement by not the Splinterlands team, but the Peakmonsters team on a new token, the Peakmonsters token, PKM, and an upcoming airdrop. Now, there's a lot to get into here. I'm going to try not to read this to you, but there's a lot to take in, and I really want to cover all the details. First, a shout out to Peak Jarvie and the Peakmonsters team on this, and probably to Godzilla too, since he's part of the Peakmonsters family. So congrats to everybody there on this. So there will be yet another there will be yet another token that is not technically part of the ecosystem, right? The Splinterlands ecosystem, but it is Splinterlands adjacent, because of how intertwined Peakmonsters is with the game, obviously. So if you have been using Peakmonsters for I don't know about rentals, but definitely for bids, right, and for any kind of purchases, if you've been doing those through Peakmonsters, there is potential for you to get some airdrops out of this. You're going to get airdrops some free tokens. Now, for me, I use Peakmonsters primarily to rent, but I have not been using it as much for the bid function, which is phenomenal. I just don't use it as often. And so I don't know how much I'm going to get. I'm probably not going to get much from this, but I'm very, very happy for the people who are part of the Peakmonsters ecosystem and the Peakmonsters family to get something out of this. So if you haven't been using Peakmonsters, now might be a good time to start, because this is where, not me, but where I think many people see blockchain going, right? The tokenization of everything. And something like this can almost be looked at like a loyalty rewards program where, you go buy a coffee from your favorite coffee shop and they stamp your card, or they punch your card, and after 10 you get a free one. This could potentially change things if everything will become somewhat tokenized in the amount of points that you can get, earn, or even buy or trade on exchanges. So let's go over here. So why PKM tokens? We've been asked for years about creating tokens for our project. Now, they do both PeakD and Peakmonsters, but they said that they would only do it if they could find a good utility for the token, and that day has come. So there's three things that that will provide utility to the tokens, at least at first, right? So it's going to be to determine who Peakmonsters will share profits with, to create Peakmonsters user-specific tournaments, and also to validate creation of new special features for loyal Peakmonsters users only. So again, this is what I'm talking about. This is almost like a loyalty program, and what you can expect from the rest of the world within the next decade as blockchain and crypto continues to eat through it. So there's many plans they're going to announce in the future, but here is the basic schedule that they have. And I'll go ahead and link to this as well so that you guys can take a look at it. This is the official PeakD blog, or the Hive blog. So on March 7th, which is today, they are announcing it. So we're living this right now. March 14th is they are going to start the PKM and SPS pool. And that initial liquidity is going to be provided by the team. I'm assuming the Peakmonsters team. And so rather than the Splinterlands team, obviously. So the Peakmonsters team is going to be supplying that. So March 18th, they are going to have their first Peakmonsters tournament with PKM rewards. So if you aren't going to get airdrop some, you could play in that tournament and win some PKM tokens from there. March 21st, they're going to start the large transaction bonus airdrops. So this we can dig into a little bit later. And if you've made large transaction, which they define as over over 10 US dollars, then you will earn something for as many of those transactions that you have. March 23rd, the big airdrop. And this is the one that'll be ongoing, lasts for 52. I'm sorry, the big airdrop, which lasts for 52 weeks. So this is going for the first year. And then there's actually another airdrop that starts March 30th, the start of the weekly airdrops from there. So in between that, March 24th is going to be the start of the PKM and SPS reward pool. So what that means is there's going to be a liquidity pool, but I believe they will start adding rewards to it. So now that TribalDex is offering fees, right, and paying fees out, you still get something if you go in before the rewards, but this is going to be further incentive to provide some liquidity for PKM. All right, so here's the airdrop starting March 21st. They're going to have a large transaction bonus. This is what I was saying earlier about the $10. For every transaction you had over $10 and up, that's going to increase the number of tokens that you could potentially receive. or the number increases, the number of tokens increases, the larger the transaction is. So they have like a whole table here, which will show you. And again, I'm trying to keep this brief. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to read it to you. So that's why I'll link to this if you are interested and want to look through it more. What happened to dark mode? I really like dark mode. Why did we change? Save my eyes. There we go. Night mode. That's what I meant. Okay, so I won't click on any more links. And then starting March 30th, they're going to continue weekly airdrops at kind of like indefinitely, or at least for the time being. So here's how the token dynamics work. There's going to be 500 million tokens, and they're going to be distributed as follows. So 75% of those tokens are going to be airdropped. 10% are going to be saved by the team for potential partnership opportunities. 5% will go to provide liquidity, 5% for liquidity rewards, and then 5% will be held by the team, 25 million tokens. So the way that they are viewing this is the initial amount of liquidity that will be provided is going to be roughly 2.1 million PKM. And the initial airdrop that they are expecting is going to be anywhere between 2 to 2.5 million. So that will be, a little bit less than 5 million tokens initially thrown in. And what they are expecting for yearly airdrop rates based on today's current activity is about 3 million tokens airdropped per year. So if you look up here, tokens only enter circulation based on specific criteria, and the max supply is set up to handle a 10x increase of market user base for at least 10 years. However, at the current rate, the max supply may not be depleted for 100 years. So if we were to stay at the same player base, this can last a whole century. Obviously, we're going to last somewhere between 10 years and 100 years as the number of players and users in the game grow, or even if the players and users don't, the number of transactions potentially grow. So let's just go through this. What to do with PKM? So PKM is a Hive Engine token, and as such, you can freely trade it on TribalDex or BSwap. And when you get the tokens airdrop, you'll be able to make the decision on what you want to do with them. But some common use cases for it will be to hold. They'll be your token. You can choose to do nothing with them and just hold them and see if they perhaps go up in price. To use, this is where it gets interesting, we plan to make new advanced features for our loyal users only that will require PKM. Also, to begin, we will create tournaments that require PKM for entry. So that's going to be an interesting thing, especially if there is going to be some sick prizes that come through that. So the pool, so you'll be able to put them into the liquidity pool with SPS. You're probably not going to get any kind of airdrop points for that, but at least you will receive some of the Peakmonsters.com profits, marketplace profits for when you do that, if you put them in a pool. And then if you want to sell them, you can always sell them, but you can also buy. So that's where your options are for this. The use case is where I'm excited to see what Peakmonsters can do, because, we talk about utility for SPS. I mean, the thing is, it's utility for any token, really. Like, what is the point, just speaking very broadly here, but what is the point for there to be any tokens outside of Bitcoin, right? Like, there has to be some kind of utility for it. Otherwise, people just treat it as nothing, and they sell it, and they trade it for fiat, or they trade it for another currency, which is what you're seeing now with SPS, essentially. People are trading it or selling it to buy cards. And PKM. This is one of the things. Like, and again, nothing against Peakmonsters specifically or personally. It's just one of those things where there's tokens for everything. We have so many tokens now, and a lot of them are garbage. A lot of them don't have any utility. So when I look at something like this, at first I was just like, okay, here we go, yet another token. You don't need this to play the game, but it is something being provided by a third-party utility from the game. And PeakJarvy and the team have done some amazing things with Peakmonsters that that they're going to be working hard towards making this token, I was about to say coin, but this token actually have some kind of value. So what will that value be at a dollar level, at a fiat level? I don't know. It could be the price of SPS, which would be crazy. I don't think it would be the price of SPS. It could be the price of Starbits, right? So, or somewhere in between, as I was discussing with people on stream earlier. All right, so the PKM and SPS liquidity pool, that's going to come through. Team members have committed to adding 210,000 SPS. Very cool. All right, so they're going to be adding that. along with, what is it, 2.1 million? No, 25 million. Interesting. Okay, so the initial price of what they're putting this at, sorry, I'm going to get my handy dandy calculator out. We can actually estimate what the initial price will be before there's probably going to be a mass sell-off as soon as it gets airdropped. Just saying. Not that there's anything bad about the token, but whenever people get stuff for free, they're always going to take some off the table, and I don't blame them. So 210,000 SPS, right? 210,000 SPS times point. We'll just be generous, say 0.12. So that's 25 grand. And they're going to pair this up with 25 million. So divided by 25 million. There you go. It is about 4x a Starbit. Wait, no. Oh, yeah, it is. So it's about 1/10 of a penny is what you can expect this to be. And again, I think that price is going to fluctuate, but it might be a good starting point just based on how much liquidity they are providing. All right, so tournaments. So each month we will donate some profits to tournaments as requested by tournament organizers. So there's no pool. I don't know what that is. All right, so recap. In essence, you're going to be rewarded when you are using peakmonsters.com in the marketplace. So you get another bonus reward if you put some extra skin in the game and stake it together with SPS into a pool. And putting that into the pool gives the token utility. So what is the big takeaway from this? Well, it's awesome to see a third party engage in a token type of loyalty system. I think that this is going to be awesome. And even if it's, this is the first time that anybody's really doing that, at least, within Splinterlands and on Hive, to offer some kind of like loyalty program. So again, this all comes down to what is the utility that PKM as a token can provide you. And I think we already have some really cool and interesting ones, right? So if these tournaments end up being something really worthwhile to play in, then having PKM for that will definitely be, desirable. The new special features that are only going to be available for people using or having maybe a certain amount of PKM, that's going to be something interesting too. Everything so far that Peakmonsters has done has been free minus whatever fees they take, right? Which you'd be paying anyway, right? Whether you're doing that within game or you're doing it with Peakmonsters or some other platform. So aside from that, all the features that they've been offering are free. Now it looks like they're going to start gating some features for those who have either, like I said, high amounts of PKM or are willing to buy and spend PKM for these services. So just something to think about and consider. If you've been using Peakmonsters a lot over the last year, then you'll probably get some really, really good stuff. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry. I misspoke earlier. So the big airdrop that's going to come, it's going to take a snapshot of what the last 52 weeks have looked like. And then the start of the weekly airdrops is going to start the week after that. So this isn't going to last for 52 weeks. I read that incorrectly. And I was like, wait, this isn't what I remember. This isn't how I understood it earlier. Okay. So that's all I have for you in this video today. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you are an avid Peakmonsters user, you should be very excited. And I definitely want to hear from you to see what your expectations are and what you're hoping to get out of this if you are planning to use more of the Peakmonsters features or maybe play in the Peakmonsters tournaments. So this is awesome. Like I said, guys, this is just more Splinterlands adjacent things happening to really build up the ecosystem. And you know that a game like Splinterlands is growing very well because of the fact that it can have sub ecosystems that exist within and parallel to it, right? So that makes me really excited to see what maybe some other third-party features could come out from, whether that's from Peakmonsters or others. But again, to tokenize this as some type of loyalty rewards program, I think is pretty cool. And I think they're ahead of the curve because we're going to start seeing this all across the board. So whether it's your McDonald's points or your airline points or something, everything at some point, it seems, will probably be moved onto a blockchain near you. All right, guys, that's all I have in the video. Have an amazing rest of your day. I will catch you all in the next one, and I will see you around the game. Take care.